Hello and welcome to the 6th episode of the Superfreakmedia podcast, No Ghouls Allowed. My name is Liam, and you might notice it is a little different that I'm introducing
Jono, you sound different.
Jono can't currently be with us at the moment, and like we said in the last one, Richard is probably okay. We have no idea.
Jono has fully himself.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to beep that out, but we hope you get well, Jono. Jono has injured himself quite a bit, and we do hope that he is doing a little bit better than I think the pictures he sent us kind of indicate, but he's a strong one, so I'm sure he'll be back.
He's a strong, independent woman.
Strong, independent woman who don't need no man.
Who don't need no Achilles tendon.
Yeah, also no Achilles tendon. But yeah, in all seriousness, Jono, we do miss you, and we can't wait to have you back on the next one, because I don't want to do this again.
And also, we have no idea what we're doing with the sound equipment, so setting up for this has been great.
Yeah, so apologies, guys, if the audio isn't sounding as good as it usually does. Apologies. We've been trying to test out some new things, and we're using obviously different equipment, but we really wanted to get a new episode out to you guys, so
especially because we missed last month because Liam was not very well, so
no, there was a lot going on.
The team are having the best time at the moment.
Picking up from last episode, obviously there were certain things that we said that we talk about, and I think we want to do the same today.
Yes.
To also introduce who is with me, if this is the first podcast that you're listening to, God help you, because it's probably the worst one to start with. My name is Liam. I kind of run superfreakmedia in many ways, but I have a great team of people around me as well. Charlie's giving me the eyes, and I am joined by Charlie Clark. If you want to also introduce yourself.
Hello, I am Charlie Clark. I am a assistant producer for Superfreakmedia, but I'm also an actor in my own right as well, so I do a bit of behind the scenesing for Super Freak, but then also film and theatre and all that good stuff, so
yeah,
it's all good.
There's a lot of good stuff going on with you at the moment, and I mean that kind of fits nicely into, I guess, like our intro. We usually kind of discuss what we've been up to, if we've seen anything cool. So Charlie, even though I know, have you been up to anything cool recently?
I've been up to quite a lot of cool stuff at the moment. So since we last recorded, because we've had a month break, I filmed the second block of Snarl, so that's on a picture wrap now. So that's exciting.
That was a werewolf, by the way.
It's just had the trailer's just had its world premiere at Liverpool HorrorCon last weekend, which was super exciting. Unfortunately,
Liverpool.
I couldn't. Great. Unfortunately, I couldn't go because we were actually engaged. Not actually to be wed, but we were actually engaged at a wedding.
In a wedding.
So yeah, I couldn't attend, but Dave and LJ and Jay and Jack went along to represent the Snarl fam, so that was cool. Mm-hmm. I've also done 2 theatre shows since we last spoke. I don't know why I'm telling you this, like you don't already know this.
Well, the people at home don't know, do they?
So I was in Much Ado About Nothing at the Bonington Theatre in Nottingham, which was really cool, with a company called Bear Left Theatre, and I played 3 characters, and it was the most difficult thing I've ever had to do, is play 3 Shakespeare characters, and it was hectic. It was a hectic show for me.
Hectic though, because I could see how much you were enjoying yourself in like everything you were involved in, so that was amazing to see. Plus, I guess this is kind of one side of things I guess people don't really talk about all that often, particularly creative people, because I think in like networking events, everyone's always like, yeah, I've got something in the pipeline. I'm definitely working on something new. And I guess it isn't always like that, but you've just taken a huge leap, haven't you?
Yeah.
So if you want to talk about that.
I mean, I wrote a bit about it on my blog, so I've renamed my blog.
Plug.
Shameless plug. So I run a blog. It used to be called Lights, Camera and a 9 to 5. It's now Lights, Camera, Hustle, because I'm now hustling my ass off, because that 9 to 5 ain't a thing no more. No. We left that job. It was getting in the way of what I actually want to be doing with my time, and I want to be doing what I trained to do, which was be an actor and a performer. And I was very much having to give up opportunities to work on stuff because of my school job. I used to work in a school as a SEN mentor. Very rewarding job, very hard job. fantastic challenge, but it was just getting in the way. And at the end of the day, I didn't go to drama school to be an SEM mentor. I went to be
absolutely
an actor. So yeah, I did Much Ado About Nothing while wrapping up at the school. So I had loads of stuff that I had to sign off at work. And then I was doing Much Ado About Nothing. At the same time, I was also rehearsing for Coram Boy at the Nottingham Playhouse. So I was in the choir, and I was one of the cathedral choir boys as well. So I got a couple of extra scenes, and that was amazing. Singing is something for me that I've always found really difficult. Not that I can't sing. I sound like I'm being really egotistical. I can sing, but I've never really had proper confidence in it. But we had a fantastic MD on Coram Boy, and he taught me stuff about my voice, and I think the whole choir, that even though I've had training previously, it just changed the entire way I use my voice, and I've noticed that my singing voice now is so much better. So I'm really grateful that I got to do Coram Boy, and also to work with Adam Penford is a bucket list moment for me, because he's a great director, and he's the artistic director at the Playhouse, and he was really cool to work with. So I'm really glad that I had that opportunity. So that's all wrapped up now, and dealing with the post-show blues is kind of sucky. I'm on the worst come down ever from
bless you,
two plays and a film. So it's the worst right now.
Well,
but also the best.
of multiple films, I guess since the last time that we recorded,
what have you been up to, Liam?
We kind of alluded to some of the projects that we had in production. Apologies again, obviously, that we had to take a little bit of a break last month. I mean, that's how things are. I think particularly when you're in a creative pursuit and life happens and things happen, it isn't our intention to not be posting regular kind of content, but in all fairness, one of the reasons we didn't do a podcast last month was because we did in fact actually shoot 3 different films. So it was definitely an ambitious month. It's not to say that there isn't more work to be done, because there are reshoots and things we need to do, and
pick-up days and stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of things that we need to do to kind of get the films to where we want them to be, but they were quite a diverse bunch of films. I think we started with a sci-fi action short film called Inertia, which allowed me to work with some amazing people, and that was really good fun.
The fight choreography on that looks sick, and we had Theo Van Leeds, who's his married name now, working on camera on that, and he killed it. It looks so good. So good.
Very, very, very happy. And Jono was actually in front of the camera. I know that we kind of spoke about this a little before.
This wasn't the shoot that broke his Achilles.
No, I mean, I think we might have broken a rib. In all honesty, I think, Jono, if you're listening, you better be listening. You've broken something. But so that was really, really cool. I had the opportunity to work with some great people on that. We then did a more kind of traditional kind of super freak horror called Do You See It Too? That's very much in the edit right now, and very happy with the direction that's taken. And I think that's going to be something, obviously, that we release kind of near Halloween sort of time.
And we got a trailer coming soon too.
We do indeed. I think that's probably going to be the first thing that we post on IGTV, is going to be that trailer, because it's only a short kind of teaser, but it kind of gives you the vibe of what we were going for. I think it's an amalgamation of a lot of the things that we've kind of done that have worked, and with some new twists.
And I think you got an opportunity there to really push the emotions with your actors.
I think it was probably one of the things that we've done that's had the most dialogue. A lot of the films that we do aren't really dialogue driven, so that was nice to kind of experiment with that a little bit more. And then we wrapped up the month kind of before everything hit the fan with a shoot for a film called Blood Money, and that brought us back with Jess, so we got to work with Jess again in front of the camera. Rich, who usually camera assists, so we do know Rich is alive because he did come and help with that film.
He is not, but he is still with us.
He came and shot that and absolutely knocked it out the park.
He stepped up in a massive way on that shoot, and he properly we brought his A game.
An amazing team. I always feel so lucky when we get to work together, because it is, I think, a family. I always kind of feel so grateful that people take the time to get involved in our stuff, and people taking the time to watch as well. We passed a huge milestone with Best Friends Forever, where we're well over 200,000 views. I think over 225,000.
I think we're nearer to 240. No, we've passed. We've passed.
See, I can't keep up. The feedback has been incredible, and that's the sort of stuff that really motivates us.
Apart from the YouTube troll that called me a fat turtle, but we'll look past that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But that's the sort of stuff that really kind of keeps us motivated to keep doing this. So thank you for that. But these last few months have been super busy, and we have no intention of slowing down, and we're kind of getting to that. But
we kind of needed to slow down for a little bit because
we celebrated 10 years this year.
Yeah,
and it's been 10 years with the foot on the gas and very little kind of like breaks in between films. And like we said, we all have lives outside of this, and we all have day jobs, unfortunately, that we have to kind of commit to, aside from Charlie. But it's a balancing act at the end of the day.
Yeah, so, and I think a lot of us have kind of bounced from like project to project to project. I know like Jono's been doing quite a lot acting wise. I know he was doing, like we mentioned it before, and he's got a day job, and then he was doing some filming with the guys he shot Enemies with, and then he's also doing something else, and then you've been jumping from film to film. It's just one of those crazy times, and I think the reason maybe we missed last month's podcast was because we'd worked our butts off so hard. I think
we just needed sleep.
We just needed to stop and kind of gather, and there's been a bit of health issues going on, but it's all good. We're still here. We're still plugging away. We're still doing stuff.
Maybe we're not.
We're bringing this to you from beyond the grave.
From the other side. But obviously, moving on to kind of the next sort of thing that we usually talk about, we usually kind of reflect on maybe something that we've seen that's been quite cool, or what we've been watching recently, or listening to, usually, because Richard usually brings
audiobooks.
An audiobook or a podcast. So Charlie, what have you watched recently?
Well,
seen that's been pretty cool?
There's two things that we went to see at the cinema together recently, which we both really enjoyed, but I'll kind of maybe let you talk about them. One thing that I did want to talk about is I watched something on Netflix the other day with my mum. She's proper sci-fi geek. Like, she likes her things science fiction-y with big explosions. Like, she's not a stereotypical mum. Like, rom-coms can get gone. She likes Die Hard. It's like one of her favourite films.
She's Michael Bay in a blouse, basically. That's what it is.
She's got hella cool film taste. But basically, we were scrolling through Netflix the other night, and we saw this film called I Am Mother. Which have you watched it?
Yeah, Hilary Swank, isn't it?
Hilary Swank, and also Rose Byrne is the voice of Mother. Yes, and I don't know what I expected from it.
I'm very surprised you checked that out, to be honest.
Well, Mum chose it because I'm not as, I struggle with sci-fi films. They're not my cup of tea usually. Like, there are the odd one, like The Martian. Loved The Martian.
Yes.
I can't remember what year The Martian came out. I think it was 2016.
Maybe.
But it was probably it was definitely in my top 3 films for that year, if not my favourite film of the year.
2015, just checked.
Thank you.
So you were close.
Close. But yeah, I think The Martian was probably my top film of that year. But when Mum chose to watch I Am Mother, I thought, oh, it's a Netflix film. And I think Netflix are really stepping their game up with the content that they're bringing out. But some of the films I found are a little bit hit and miss.
Well, I think I might know why you enjoyed that film. But I'll give... Yeah.
I think because it was it's kind of dystopian in the near future-y, kind of, the humans have basically wiped everything out.
Yeah.
Also, the film would kind of have you believe, but there's kind of twists and turns along the way. And I think I found it I think I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
Because there were very little lasery pew 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 moments in it, which is when I start to struggle with space films. And it's not actually set in space, no. It's on Earth.
Yeah.
But there's robots and
space. I think you don't mind sci-fi.
Yeah.
It's space.
I think my science fiction needs to be grounded with like human story. And that's very much what I Am Mother is.
Yeah.
It's this kind of human struggle between this girl who's been birthed through an artificial kind of womb that this robot thing has kind of developed.
That kind of you think of when you think of something motherly or maternal has kind of been removed or kind of twisted in this sci-fi way, which I think is what's quite cool about it.
And Hilary Swank she's a cracking actress, but I've not really seen her in that kind of...
her in this.
Yes.
But I do think she's getting a bit of a resurgence because I know that she's also in The Hunt, which is obviously...
But I've never really seen her in this kind of film before. Not that I can think in my recent memory.
I don't know. I think when you think Hilary Swank, you think $1 Million Baby. Like, that's, to me, kind of what I think of, because I think that's when she was at her peak. I don't
think more kind of rom-commy when I think of Hilary Swank, because she did do a few rom-coms, didn't she?
I don't know. Whatever happened to Hilary Swank, that can be next episode.
But she's great in this. I mean, I can't remember the girl's name and I feel really bad for it. But the girl who plays the main girl, she was fantastic. And it's this whole thing of challenging everything that she's been brought up to know. And everything gets called into question. Everything gets turned on its head. And there's some real, like, human struggle in the film. But then there's also a lot of love and...
Yeah, it's a very human film to say that it has that robotic element.
And I really, really dug it.
The girl's name, by the way, is Clara Brugard Larson. So apologies. She's obviously listening, but apologies if I've mispronounced that. But I said obviously I felt there was a reason why you enjoyed that, and I don't know if you knew this, but the people who did the film were Weta Digital, who did all the effects. Yeah. And there's an absolutely amazing featurette. I think you can kind of tell because Weta are awesome. On YouTube, there's a video that you can watch, and it tells you how they kind of built the suit. And actually, the person who ended up playing Mother was one of the guys who helped design the suit, and basically
that's really cool.
The director was there and saw him doing this demo like to kind of show what this suit could do, and then he was like, we don't need to cast this, like, you do this perfectly. Yeah. So there's like a guy, and I think he says in the video as well, he actually went to go and pick up his kids from school in the suit, and they were like, oh my god. So like that's a filmmaking dad moment. I think
it felt amazing. A little bit like a Hollywood feature-length version of a Black Mirror episode.
Yeah.
I mean, Black Mirror to me is quite British, so it took all of.
I think the writing is going elsewhere now. Yeah, but I think like more global, but
in its core, a lot of Black Mirror's writing, the way Charlie Brooker writes, is very British.
It's got that sensibility.
Yeah, and I think like if you took that and chucked a Hollywood budget at it and chucked a Hollywood writer at it, I think I Am Mother is basically what you end up with.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great film. So if you haven't watched it yet and you have access to a Netflix account, please go and watch it now.
I do. Yeah, I was going to say I do think that was really good. And I mean, speaking of Netflix as well, I guess what I'd mention is it's not something that's new, but it's something that I kind of noticed they'd added new episodes on Netflix. And in all honesty, I don't think I caught all of them when they were on TV. And that was Inside Number 9. And for the last kind of few nights, because I usually put something on like before I go to bed or when I'm in bed just to kind of chill out to, and obviously they're perfect kind of size. They're about half an hour, and Steve Pemberton and Reece Shearsmith are just absolute geniuses in my eyes. I never really got introduced to them when they were doing League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, or League of Gentlemen, sorry, I always get that mixed up. That's the Sean Connery weird film. League of Gentlemen. But I kind of got introduced to them when they did Psychoville, and then I feel like Inside Number 9 is by far my favourite because it's
League of Gentlemen versus Psychoville. There's no contest. League of Gentlemen is far better.
I do think Psychoville had its moments, absolutely. But I mean, that's something that I've really been enjoying, and there were some episodes that I think I've obviously missed through the years. But I think what always surprises me about them is they will usually have this kind of like savage or horrific kind of twist to them, or there'll be something that's just slightly off or something weird. But the people that they get involved, like the actors, I mean, the episode I watched the other night was the one that had Peter Kay in, and I mean, he's literally in it for like 2 seconds and then something bad happens, but it's like to get someone kind of like that and see them in like kind of a horror setting is crazy. But some of them are actually really heartfelt as well. There's an episode with Sheridan Smith which love Sheridan Smith. Really kind of hit me. And I don't know, it's kind of little clever concepts like that. I think we need more stuff like that on TV. Yeah. Loving Inside Number 9.
I'm going to bring up another thing that is an older thing, but has recently gone on to Netflix, I think in the last couple of months. And it was something that I always wanted to watch, never got round to it, and then it appeared on Netflix, and I was like, I'm going to watch it, because I'm taking a bit of a hiatus from Game of Thrones at the moment, because I'm bringing it up on the episode. I got told not to bring it up. No, I haven't had time to sit down and properly watch Game of Thrones, and I needed a break of it. So I decided to watch American Crime Stories, The People versus O.J. Simpson, which is amazing. I'm about halfway through it, and oh my god,
so good.
It's so good. The acting, just everything about it is insane.
Amazing, yeah.
I thought I was really going to struggle because I'm a massive Friends nerd to see David Schwimmer as anything other than Ross from Friends, but he is so good in this.
Very good,
like, I think a lot of the time, like, comic actors struggle to kind of be taken seriously.
I think Steve Carell's probably one that I've seen the most. I mean, Kristen Wiig to an extent as well, as also kind of... and Robin Williams, I think he had that series filmed in 1 Hour Photo where he was like a weirdo. It was... Yeah, I don't know. I think there's something cool about placing a comedy actor in a quite serious situation.
Yeah, but, like, obviously David Schwimmer's known for, like, Madagascar and Friends.
Well, I was going to say, I don't think when you think David Schwimmer, you go
No, but
Madagascar,
you think of Friends, but then... Oh, no, I don't know. If you've got kids, you'll know... He's in Friends. He's Melman. Anyway, he's in Friends. He's in Madagascar.
You Friends again.
I'm just talking about Friends. Yeah, so you'll know him from being funny, and he's so good in this. I think it's about episode 2 or 3.
Yeah.
There's a moment where he's in a car, and you don't hear the screaming. You don't hear like anything from him. You just see from outside the car.
Yeah.
And he has this moment. He's playing Rob Kardashian, and he just has this moment where he's just screaming and excellent. He's just crying and screaming and like punching the steering wheel, and it's just like, oh my god.
Yeah, you could tell that he had fun with that. But I think that and season 2, I think it's no... I was not mad at the amount of Emmys that series has won, and I mean Ryan
totally
Murphy is a genius. I mean, again, it completely not horror related or kind of really in what we usually talk about, but I've been watching Pose as well at the moment. That in particular has had some really, really cool moments and cool characters, and it features like a cast that are mainly trans as well, which is completely out of the box. Like, you don't see that happening, so I don't know. I think Ryan Murphy, obviously well known for like Glee, Nip Tuck, American Horror Story, that sort of jazz, but he is definitely someone who I think he's just signed a deal with Netflix actually at the moment, so everything that he did kind of with Fox, he's now going to be moving things over to Netflix.
Amazing.
Doing stuff there.
I'm so down for that.
No, I'm very, very, very excited. But going back to obviously what we said that we would talk about.
Let's get into the crux of the episode.
A while ago, we did say that we were going to talk about some killer doll films.
Yes.
And this was obviously timed around that we had the release of Toy Story 4, probably the most horrific of all of them. We had Child's Play, and had Annabelle Comes Home. I mean,
she does
I think
indeed.
the sequel probably will just be Annabelle Goes Back Out Again. Do you know
Annabelle leaves.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, obviously we have a special connection and relationship with the Conjuring films and Annabelle and all of that.
Tell me, Liam, why do we have a special connection with the Annabelle films?
I don't think the listeners need to hear that. But
if you want to go and check out our award-winning Annabelle My Creation contest entry, it is on YouTube under the title The Confession.
Thank you. That was done seamlessly. Absolutely not obvious at all. But yeah, I mean, although we have that relationship, I do think, and I can kind of sense, you know, when I'm speaking to people I know, like, they had this excitement for those films. I do think it is kind of simmering down a bit now, and it's getting a little ridiculous, and I don't really know how they're going to kind of top this last one, because it was kind of, let's just throw everything. But I don't know.
I did enjoy it though.
I don't know. Shall we kind of like go through? I mean, if we genuinely actually start with the 3 films that kind of came out, we'll only briefly mention Toy Story 4, but
because it's
when
not really
I say
a killer doll film,
horrific, I mean horrific.
Oh my god. So Liam hates me for this, but as a child I was not really a big Pixar nut. Like, this is one of the problems in our relationship. So yeah, I was never really a big Pixar head as a kid. Like, I preferred the more traditional Disney films.
I think it's just because you're older. But
excellent. Okay, cool. Thanks for that. But yeah, so but I do, since we've been a couple, I think I've appreciated Toy Story a whole lot more.
I don't think you've had a choice.
I think I've just been beaten over the head with it. Not physically, there is no abuse in our relationship. And then when we went to Florida last year, Toy Story Land opened, and that was really cool, and we got to share that together.
So
then, oh my God. So we went to see Toy Story 4, and I think we were both crying from about 5 minutes
in all honesty, you know, when I first saw that they'd announced it,
you were mad.
So mad, because as far as I was concerned, Toy Story 3 was like the perfect conclusion. I mean, don't get me wrong, I hate Bonnie's guts. She might be a little girl who looks as cute as anything.
Wow.
But she can off. I do not like Bonnie. No.
Liam just beeped on the podcast.
But at the end of the day, I kind of got, like, I grew up at the exact same time as Andy, so I think that also really, it meant a lot to me, because, like, literally as he was leaving to go to university, I was leaving to go to university. But I don't know, I kind of formed this weird connection with it, and it was the first film I ever saw in the cinema, so I don't know how that speaks now, because all I make is, like, horror. But I don't know, I think there are generally some horrific moments in those films, and even with this one, like, we're not lying when we say this. In the screening we were in, there was a girl in the row in front of us who genuinely screamed several times because they were like these doll characters that just kept popping up.
They are horrendous. So
when we kind of talk about it on this podcast, I don't feel like it's misplaced.
Do you know why they scared me? Because they looked exactly like Sid the Dummy from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I think Slappy from Goosebumps, that's what I'm going to go with.
Also but I think they kind of run quite parallel. Sid and Slappy
just
do look very similar.
Ventriloquist kind of doll is
but
just
awful. Not a thing. But yeah, there are some genuinely scary moments in Toy Story 4.
And there's a lot of homages to The Shining, I noticed in this last one, like the music and stuff. But I think that's something that's been kind of paid tribute to since the start. Like, you'll see kind of some rooms will be called 237. The carpet in Sid's kind of house is the hexagonal pattern from the Overlook Hotel. So I think that there's loads of little nods in there that if you do also appreciate horror or other kind of genres, like even when they kind of like reference like adult rom-coms and stuff, and
I think that's something that the Toy Story films do quite well, is obviously you know that the people watching it is going to be parents mostly that take their kids to watch it.
I think that's where the rewatchability kind of comes from there, because you watch it as a kid and you laugh along with everyone else because you're like, everyone's laughing, and then when you grow up you're like, oh, they were talking about a dick. Do you know what I mean? Like, you kind of then realise.
But Toy Story 4 was very beautiful, and there was a lovely moment at the end of the film when there was this little old bloke who was sat next to us, wasn't he? And he was really teary, and he turned to us and he was like, did you enjoy that as much as I did? I don't know why I did a slightly American accent, because he wasn't American.
It's from the deep south.
He's from the deep south. Did you enjoy? No, I'm
that's going Australian. Just stop. It's good that you're pursuing a career in acting with these accent skills.
But yeah, so he turned to us and he was like, did you enjoy that as much as I did? And we were like, yeah. We were all kind of crying, and he was like, it was wonderful, wasn't it? And we were like, oh my God.
Yeah, I know.
But he was like, he looked like a Pixar character, didn't he?
Yeah,
he was so eccentrically dressed.
He looked kind of like the guy from Up. Like, it was kind of adorable. But he was crying, I was crying, Charlie was crying, there was girls next to Charlie crying. Our whole row was just
a mess.
The
worst.
But I will say, as a chapter of kind of the saga and the story, I did think it was good. I don't think it was bad. I think it was genuinely one of the most funniest kind of entries.
Yeah.
Like, they definitely played for comedy, and the voice talent as well that they got in there. Did not realise that Bo Peep is voiced by the lady from Ghostbusters, you know, the one who's like, Ghostbusters, the receptionist. Like, did not see the correlation, but then when I rewatch it now, I'm kind of like,
you can hear her.
Yeah, she's leaving to go work at a fire brigade and sort out paranormal shit.
But then so after Toy Story, after that emotional,
we did have a double bill, and we said that we were going to double bill on the last podcast, so we did do that, didn't we?
We did. We in fact, we leave straight after the last
podcast.
We left the podcast to go and do this
doll films.
So then after that we went to see Child's Play, and I'm just going to keep this real brief because it was crap.
You did not have a good time.
I did not have. You know when they remade Nightmare on Elm Street, and we never asked for the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. It was something that we never needed. We didn't want it. Nobody wanted it. It can off. Child's Play is exactly the same. It was just all the moments that you were like, oh my God, this is actually quite cool.
Yeah.
Were like seconds long, and you were like, well, why
Bother.
Why bother? I mean, I just didn't enjoy it. It was unnecessary. Mark Hamill as Chucky was
I don't know, I do want to kind of touch upon that. I mean, I followed the director, Lars Klevberg. I know that he made a short film called Polaroid, and then that got developed by Dimension Films and was set for release. They marketed the hell out of it, and then the whole Weinstein thing happened, which is who own Dimension Films. So as a fellow horror filmmaker and seeing this guy get a chance to do something and get his film made, whether it was good or bad, it was kind of devastating to then realise that it was then just going to get shelved. And I know it's been released in Germany now, and it is online, and I know that obviously it is available to view if that's how you choose to view your content, but I was then really kind of excited that he'd been given this second chance and been given a franchise, like a franchise that was established, because I think that's the reason they did it, because people know that the Child's Play name is going to sell tickets, it's going to get bums on seats, and people are going to see it, whether it's crap or it's not. Yeah. Now, I do agree, I think it was unnecessary. It was just so stupid. And I mean, the things that they changed. Have the original people involved, like Don Mancini, everyone not being involved. It's just not Chucky if it's not Brad Dourif. Horrendous. And I do agree with that. It's like Freddy. But I think there's been a lot of liberties taken in the Child's Play franchise when it's had everyone original involved in it that were ridiculous. Like Seed of Chucky, get out. Hate it. I think it's an absolute... Ocean. Like, I like shit. And Jono likes shit. You like your hokey, shite horror films, don't you? But to me, that's like too far. Like I can't. I can't Seed of Chucky was like that much. Like Bride of Chucky pushed it, didn't it? Seed of Chucky was just beyond ridiculous. I didn't even bother with Cult of Chucky. I think when they got back to Curse of Chucky, was it Cult or Curse? There's both. Cult of Chucky is dreadful, but Curse of Chucky was good because it was... I was always of the opinion, why don't you just kick Chucky in the face and run away? And then when they had a protagonist who was in a wheelchair, I was kind of like, yeah, that makes sense, because you can't kick them and then run away, so she is actually screwed. So I enjoyed that, and it had that suspense element again, and he actually felt scary again. But then the continuing chapter, Cult of Chucky, where we go into a mental asylum, it was just absolutely bizarre. Like, it was so hokey. It felt like something that should be on the Sci-Fi Channel. And the concept that they kind of tapped into, where he could then possess multiple dolls, was like, yes, why have we not done this before? Let's have an army of Chuckies. But then they all looked dreadful. Like, they just looked just not okay. And that kind of bugged me, because I think the main critiques that people have had about this new film have been the design of it, because it looks awful. It looks absolutely diabolical. But like, I do respect that they built it and it was practical. My problem with it was very much in the same way that Nightmare on Elm Street made minor changes from Freddy, and the kind of, you got a bit of a different kind of backstory, and it was just like, why bother? Like, why bother making changes that are so stupid? Like, I would have much rather them taken Nightmare on Elm Street and done a remake and completely blown shit out the water. Kind of how they did with Child's Play, though, because that was part of the... Obviously, they had copyright, and I think in their clauses, they had the ownership of the name Child's Play, and they could call a doll Chucky, but he couldn't be possessed by voodoo. There couldn't be a serial killer. So I think that's why they went down the AI route. The changes weren't... To me, they were big changes, but they kind of were just non-consequential. They just didn't really... I did kind of like the way that it happened. Like, the guy in the factory at the start is just kind of f***ed off and done with the world. So he just goes, you know what, I'm going to kill myself anyway. Spoiler alert, by the way, sorry. Well, to be fair, it's in the opening. So basically, he's f***ed off with the whole world. He's going to kill himself, so he decides, I'm going to just turn the safety off of all of the settings of this doll, shove a chip in a doll, and just send it on its way to some rando family. But there were just... I don't know. It just kind of fell short. I don't know what expectations I had of it. My expectations were very low, but it even fell short of those. And it very much did feel like, kind of... Like I said, the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, nobody asked for it. Nobody asked for this, and it just wasn't necessary. Well, you say nobody asked for it, but it did do really, really well at the box office, and I do think I think they'd be stupid not to do another one, even if it is direct to DVD, because they're going to make money off of it. And initially, when it was kind of announced and we saw that first picture of the new doll, I was like, no, this looks absolutely dreadful. But I kind of then got on the hype train when Mark Hamill was cast, because I loved his work as the Joker. I think he's a very talented actor and voice actor, and he did do well as Chucky, but it was kind of just dreadful in a lot of ways. Like, the comedy wasn't as good as it should have been.
The comedy was nowhere near
even
where it should have been.
Audrey Plaza as the mum, like, I love her in everything else I've seen. I love that kind of like stone cold, like, faced humour that's really dry and just awkward.
She
does
a bit
that so well.
Blair, though, wasn't she?
Character was just so annoying. Bland. And just like, she was a terrible mum, and like, everyone, when I've read reviews, they're kind of praising the relationship between the mum and the son, and I'm like, no, like, this is no, it's awful.
I mean, it is interesting the way it plays with AI, and like, there is moments like there's near the kind of, I think, the third act of the film, where everything kicks off in like this.
I think that was maybe a saving grace, but that was the film I wanted to see, not like the 50 minutes before that.
Yeah, and it taps into like the idea of like self-driving cars and kind of Chucky kind of tapping into those and possessing those, and then AI around like the store when they have the big launch at the end, towards the end of the film. But then it was kind of like, oh, by the way, Chucky can possess AI, end of film. And you were like, what?
I mean,
why have you taken a whole 50 minutes to explain this? For it to all to be over in 2 seconds? Like, what is that?
I think some of it worked, like, particularly, obviously, when he kind of hacked cameras and then you could see where he was on TVs and stuff like that was clever. But the thing with the self-driving cars and stuff, like, to me, that's still not a reality just yet.
No,
so I feel like
was
that
a little bit too far.
2 steps kind of ahead of where we're actually
There's a bit with, I'm not going to say what happens, but there's a nice little moment with the drones, which I think was one of the moments that was just like, oh my God, but then it was over so fast, you were like, oh, well, why bother then?
I think my favourite bit was, spoiler alert, but there is a scene involving a cat.
Oh God!
Obviously, as a cat owner,
we've got 2 babies. We've got 2 fur babies.
But there is like a really creepy kind of moment where Chucky's obviously done something, and then he's kind of just stood at the end of the bed, and then he just plays back an audio recording of him killing the cat, and it's. That to me is like, that was probably one of the best. He plays back like
Andy going, oh, I hate this cat, or whatever he says.
I'm not going to lie, I found that it was kind of brilliant, because I know that Child's Play and the series of Child's Play was something that was really in real life involved, even in the Jamie Bulger case. Like, that was obviously a truly horrific thing that actually happened. And I know that the kind of VHS covers and things like that, they were all pulled into the court case as like, these kids saw like a doll beheading another doll, and this is why they've done something bad. And I did kind of like that, because to me, the argument that movies make people kill people is absolute shite. So that one can just do one. And I know that there's very much a kind of issue at the moment with the gun crime in America, violent video games being banned, Walmart not carrying kind of certain films and games and stuff.
But then I saw a very interesting meme that said, when boys used to play with guns before video games even existed, boys were violent. Yeah. I'm stereotyping, but it was a picture of some kids playing war.
Someone is going to do
war
something
existed
because
before video
they've got
games.
Something wrong with them.
Yeah.
It's not because of what they play or what they choose to watch. But I did like the fact that Chucky in this film picks up his violent tendencies from the films he watches. But I think from a robotic standpoint, something that is there just to observe would probably see that behaviour, see how people react to it, because I think it was Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 that the kids are watching.
Yeah.
And obviously they're far too young to be watching it, but they're kind of just there laughing as this guy's got a chainsaw and he's killing people. So I think that's how the doll kind of then is like, do you know what? I'm going to do something violent.
He thinks he's doing it for comic effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that was a kind of not a nod to obviously what was truly actually harrowing and horrible that actually happened, but this argument to me is just utter shit. So I'm kind of glad that the filmmakers involved were intelligent enough to go, do you know what? Do one, because it's crap. But yeah, I guess to round off the killer doll films that we've watched recently that have been released, we then finished with Annabelle Comes Home. Which is the 3rd Annabelle film, and trying to explain the chronological order of the Annabelle series it's like a math equation. But so I think we go with Annabelle Creation, then we've got Annabelle, and then we've got Annabelle Comes Home, if we're kind of doing it in the Annabelle order without the Conjuring films and the Nun and all of that.
oh God, I feel like a dick for saying this because obviously we kind of won, but out of the three, I did not really enjoy Annabelle Creation. Like,
sacrilege.
I think it had its moments, but I don't know. There was something about it that just felt a little bit not as good as the first one.
Oh God, no! Have you seen the first one?
Yeah,
it's dreadful.
I don't know.
No, it's god awful.
But maybe I'm getting them the wrong way around.
Annabelle Creation is obviously the one that's kind of set in the kind of
that's
50s
the one in the house, isn't it?
And
oh no, I like. Sorry, yeah,
no, I did like
Annabelle. Annabelle, I do not like. Yeah. Annabelle Creation was good. So I kind of had high expectations going into Annabelle Comes Home because of this, but then I was a bit like, why are they still carrying it on? I felt like we didn't need this film.
Yeah.
I feel like we don't need a lot of films apparently on this podcast. We don't need any of these
Charlie
films.
is just going to get rid of every film in existence apart from Nightmare on Elm Street and Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones isn't a film, it's a TV series actually. God, we're horrible to each other when Jono's not here to...
Jono, we need you here to mediate, please.
We need couples counselling. Help! No, but I don't know what I expected going into Annabelle Comes Home.
Yeah.
But I liked it.
I think my expectations were very low because I could kind of tell at this point, I feel like we've reached a certain point where, as I said, people aren't interested anymore. I think it's very much a cash grab, and that's...
Also, after The Nun, I was a little bit worried.
The Nun was... It was so disappointing because I love Corin Hardy and his work, and it could have been so much better than it was, and
I was just very disappointed by the polystyrene door that was holding the Jesus blood behind it. I was like, what is that? Like, what is that? That's just spray painted polystyrene.
Yeah, I mean, budget cuts, Brexit. That's ultimately what happened.
Brexit doesn't affect Hollywood.
Definitely Brexit. But I don't know. Gary Doberman is the guy who's written a lot of the films, obviously, in the Conjuring universe. And, of course, we did just have The Curse of La Llorona as well, which I thought was quite good. I don't think it was as terrible as people said. I think it kind of worked on a nice mindless horror fan level of just being like, do you know what?
It was kind of like The Curse of La Llorona kind of left me feeling the same way that... What's the film Behind the Door with the
other side of the door.
The other side of the door. I couldn't.
That was trash.
No, but there was something about that I kind of liked. It had
kind of felt like an Indian Grudge film.
Yeah, but I wasn't mad at that because I kind of like the Grudge films.
Yeah, no, I wasn't too keen. But I mean, he's obviously been involved quite intrinsically with all the writing and kind of stories that we've watched and we've enjoyed, even the stuff done by James Wan. So to see him kind of then take on a directorial kind of duty on this one was interesting, and I think he did a good job. Like, the characters I enjoyed. Obviously we got Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson back completely. Oh my god, this is the pressure of recording a podcast in one take. You can't remember everyone's name, but we got those back for, I think, a glorified cameo, but it was kind of nice to see them.
Yeah.
But I liked that the story was ultimately about the kids and the babysitter and
it did have some good scary moments in it. There was some quite unnerving things, and what I found really nice as well was it built tension quite nicely. It wasn't all jump scare.
Well, I think that's been the argument in the reviews, particularly that have kind of slated it, is that it just feels like a collection of jump scares. And
See,
I've got to say,
think it was.
Having watched it a couple of times, I kind of agree, because you kind of go from set piece to set piece to set piece. That's not to say that the set pieces aren't good, but it would have been nice to get kind of, I don't know, with the Conjuring films you got to know the family, so they'd have like a nice comedy moment, or they'd have something that just kind of broke the tension so that you cared about them a bit more, so then the next time you saw them in jeopardy you're kind of like, shit, what's going to happen? Whereas this, because there's three central characters, there's the babysitter, the babysitter's friend, and ultimately the warrant's daughter.
Yeah, and there's like the kind of semi-boyfriend as like a side character.
Yeah, but he goes literally a side piece.
But he does go through a bit of horrendousness, doesn't he? Because he has the black shuck after him, which is a nice English folky myth thing, which is just a bit...
I don't know. I liked it, and I did enjoy it overall. I don't think it was as bad as Annabelle, but I don't think it was as good as Annabelle Creation, because I think I cared about the characters maybe a little bit more in the prequel.
I don't know, I think this may be because it was set in a time that I kind of feel a bit more connected to.
What, like the 70s kind of thing? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, obviously I wasn't born in the 70s, but like musically and kind of filmically, I kind of have more of a connection with that era. So because it was set in that kind of time, I felt instantly a bit more like, okay then.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I'm more connected to these characters than people that live on a farm and they're kind of orphan children, like teenagers. It felt a bit more like a traditional slasher, but with like more supernatural kind of elements in it, because it had the babysitters. It was a bit like Halloween-y, babysitters, 70s.
I kind of liked some of the characters that they tried to introduce. As you said, there was the black shark,
the ferryman. Oh my god, yes!
Like, I think the ferryman for me was the highlight of the film.
I want more Conjuring films where you just get to see these other characters.
But I think that's ultimately obviously what they're trying to do, because the Crooked Man is supposed to be getting a spin-off. I mean, personally, I don't really see how they can make that character scary. I think that was a manifestation of an object or something that worked in the world and in the story of The Conjuring 2. I don't think we need a backstory, because I don't think the Crooked Man is an entity that would have scared multiple children. I think it was a cool thing and a cool concept. The Nun, I think, terrified me in The Conjuring 2.
Oh my god, hated everything about it.
Backstory kind of uncovered too much, and it became kind of a bit Indiana Jonesy, and there was like this magic element, and I don't know.
Polystyrene doors.
It was a bit crap. What I did like about this is the fact that they were like, we've got this doll, everyone knows that this doll is evil, and I mean, genuinely, I'm just going to kind of drop this in there, having actually seen one of the dolls that they used in the film when we went to LA, they are terrifying to look at, because they genuinely look like they're following you with their eyes. So I get when people are kind of like, it's creepy.
Yeah.
I liked that they unleashed all of the objects in the Warrens' kind of artifact room, and I think that is ultimately the only direction they could have taken.
But it's the bit where the girl's like, she's like, what did you touch? And she's like, everything. And you're like, oh shit, the bed, everything. Shit's gonna hit the fan, everything's coming.
And I think they did well to juggle it, but it is very much like, we're going to put this person in jeopardy, they're in one area of the house,
and there was like the haunted wedding dress woman thing, and the piano, and
it was kind of almost a bit of a montage of like the best bits. They took things that had worked in the previous films, jumbled it all together, formed a story around that, like. And I feel like that maybe they wrote the scares. It felt and then, reverse engineered. Yeah, they
made the scares. Then they go, oh, what folktale / ghost / Warren file can we fit with that? Oh, let's chuck the black shook at it. Oh, well, then there's the ferryman and the haunted wedding dress. And I know what you mean, but I wasn't mad at it. Yeah, I really wasn't mad at it. I really actually quite enjoyed it.
I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people have said it is.
Oh yeah, but there's always going to be like, I don't know. I feel like I think we've touched on this in previous podcasts. I think now as not a generation, maybe a generation, or maybe just as society, we're so desensitized to everything. It's like almost impossible to scare people now, unless you're like super hypersensitive. I mean, my sister won't watch. She won't even watch like a 12, like a horror film, like that's a 12 that's got like nothing in it. She'll watch through her fingers. Like she said to me, like every time she watches a Super Freak film, she watches it through her fingers. See, or she has to watch it with somebody.
I don't get that, and I think it's because I have become so desensitized to stuff. But I think the things that stay with you are those films that kind of get you into the genre, and like you remember the first time you were scared, and that element of surprise and not really knowing what was coming next. So that is a nice little segue, if we're talking about gateway films, into an awesome film that we also just got to check out on an advanced screening called Scary Tales to Tell in the Dark.
Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I do apologise, but before we get to that, I don't know, Charlie, if it's just me, but I'm hearing something, and it sounds like it's coming from the corner.
Oh my goodness, is it Cage Corner?
Hi guys, sorry I can't be with you for the podcast this month. Unfortunately, I've managed to rupture my Achilles, which basically means that I've pet cemeteried my own leg, which is sort of annoying. It also means that I can't really do much. But it does, however, mean that I've been able to watch and read a load of Nicolas Cage interviews, which means I have a couple of Cage Corners for you. So, first one. In the early 1980s, Nicolas Cage lived with Johnny Depp. And one day they were playing Monopoly, as you do, and Nick sort of drops into the conversation, Johnny, I think you should try acting. I think that's something that you'd be pretty good at. And Johnny's like, no, I'm not really feeling it. I want to be a musician. Don't really want to do the acting thing. Don't think I'll be very good. However, Nicolas Cage pushes him and says, look, meet with my agent, have a chat about it and see how you feel. So Johnny goes off, meets with Nick's agent and gets sent off to an audition. That audition was for Nightmare on Elm Street, and, as you probably all know, Johnny appeared in that film. So he got his first audition and his first role thanks to Nicolas Cage. There we go. Second Cage Corner fact. He once spent $276,000 on a dinosaur skull, which he bought in a legitimate auction, because I guess he wanted a dinosaur skull. I mean, I would. Unfortunately, it turned out that this dinosaur skull was illegally taken from another country, from Mongolia, and therefore he had to give it back, thus losing $276,000. Two wonderful Cage Corner moments for you. I guess I'll see you next time. Enjoy the rest of the podcast.
So, somehow, Jono just managed to interrupt our intermission with a glorious fact from about Nicolas Cage, not from Nicolas Cage.
From Nicolas Cage
If you somehow
himself.
managed to get a transmission from Nicolas Cage, then bravo.
Yes,
But,
even with a broken
Jono.
Achilles, he's still bringing us Cage Corner.
Even a crippled, broken man, he is here with us on the podcast. So thank you so much for that,
Thanks,
Jono. It
probably
means the world.
Means the world.
Probably
going to have something horrible to say about Nicolas Cage, but
Yeah. Well, what's funny is the fact that we're recording this, so we actually have no idea what Jono might have just said.
Yeah, he could have said, like, the worst thing ever about Nicolas Cage, and we're like, thanks for that, Jono. That's great.
Thanks, brilliant.
But we were talking about Cage Corner the other day, actually, because I was talking to Jono, and I'd sent him this thing, which I did not even know was a thing. Everybody's probably going to be like, how did you not know that was a thing? So there was a Tim Burton Superman film in the works.
Yeah.
Did not know
Nicolas
this.
Cage with
Nicolas
long
Cage
hair.
with long hair. Looks a bit like Loki, but like not as sexy as Tom Hiddleston.
Are you? Oh my gosh! Are you
No.
saying that you like Nicolas Cage?
No, but the long hair was a little bit
The face
Loki-esque.
says something different.
So it was a little bit like Loki hair, but he was in like a Superman costume, and I was like, "What is this?"
Yeah,
and
did
it was
you not know?
I had no idea, and I'm quite a big Tim Burton fan, so I was like, "How do I not?" Apparently, I'm not a Tim Burton fan because I did not know this.
It didn't happen.
So am I. But
yeah,
I sent it to
curious
Jono
to see what would have happened. I'm sure there was something with Kevin Smith being involved, and like they've got a documentary now where they kind of interview all these people who were kind of involved in it and what it could have been.
It's mad because he's like doing this costume test with this long hair, and
it's crazy, yeah.
And I sent it to Jono, and I was like, "Oh my god, did you know this existed?" He was like, "Yeah, of course." He was like, "I've got these facts for Cage Corner," and I was like, "Whoa, okay, sorry about it." Like,
oh my gosh. Well, yeah, you never know. Obviously, he might have just given us
oh my god, if he has,
we've just repeated it, psychically connected. But yes, going back to obviously what we've just seen. So the other night we got to see Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark on an advanced screening, which was really cool. I got the title right.
Well done.
I was obviously a huge fan of Guillermo del Toro and Andre Overdell. I believe that's how you say his name. I've seen his work with The Autopsy of Jane Doe. I really enjoyed that.
Love that film.
So I went into this with very high expectations. People I'd seen who'd seen it in America, because like everything, we always get everything after,
like 3 months afterwards.
Absolute nightmare. I'd seen them kind of compare it to Trick or Treat. It was like this great anthology film, a gateway film for kids to kind of get into horror.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, in some aspects, I do agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to, I don't know if you want to give us an outline.
So it is a little bit Trick or Treat, a little bit Goosebumpsy. So it's basically your kind of haunted house. It kind of starts with a haunted house and a story of a girl called Sarah Bellows.
Bellows.
I knew you were going to do that.
So me and Charlie have this thing where we just say Bellows to each other instead of hello. So as soon as they were like the characters called Sarah Bellows, it became.
If anybody in the UK knows Phone Jacker, you'll know why we do that.
Bruskety Bear.
Bruskety Bear.
Bellows.
Brian Badunde. Anyway, so yeah, it starts with kind of Halloween night, jocks chasing nerds into a haunted house. They hide there. Then they figure out that there's this, this story of Sarah Bellows, and she has a book where she wrote all her scary stories. And they take the book
in blood.
And yeah, so they take the book, and then because they've unleashed evil from the book, I don't know what that voice was, but you're welcome. They've unleashed evil and the spirit of this woman from this book. So all these stories start happening to everyone who was in the haunted house when the book was kind of reanimated, I suppose. Is that the right word to use? The stories
start writing themselves, don't they, in the book, and they involve the characters who found it.
The first kid to disappear is the jock, who kind of locked them in the room, and then a couple of others start to disappear. But the thing that I loved most about it was the creatures and the costume, and the design of the horrible characters was really cool.
They did so well to kind of capture those creatures, because I know that this is obviously a book, I believe, from the 80s. I do have a copy of it, but I've not actually read it, and it doesn't have the original illustrations. But I know that everyone's pretty much seen that front cover, that watercolour with the strange kind of creepy clown-looking ghoul that's smoking a pipe. It's not okay, and I can tell that the people like us when they were kids, if they'd be in a school library and they'd see that book cover, they'd be like, that's the book for me. I mean, I think that was kind of the book like pre-Goosebumps, because Goosebumps was kind of the gateway kind of books for me into horror.
I think like Goosebumps was like the kind of 90s
this
kids
was kind of like the
version of Goosebumps of this book.
And I think, like you said, you drew quite a nice parallel between that and the Goosebumps movie, because ultimately it's very similar in the way that they get around unleashing all these characters. And I think, in all honesty, it was very similar in terms of the audience it was after, and also the scariness to an extent. I think maybe Scary Stories has an edge particularly with the Jangly Man.
That character particularly is horrendous.
I think it's Jangly Man. Jangly Man.
Something like that.
Something. But that's I think that was a highlight of the film for me. But I mean, I'm a sucker for nostalgia. So sorry, I'm a sucker for nostalgia. So the fact that it was all in the 60s, and I looked at you, like, from the opening frame, it's like burnt orange trees. There's old cars.
It was like everything.
Small town America. It was
our aesthetic.
And everything was obviously, because it was Halloween night. Everything was just perfect for me in terms of the way it looked. I think the characters were okay, and it was nice to have a female protagonist who dug horror, because I can't really remember the last time I've seen that. She
was very much like, she felt a bit more like a Nancy for me. Like, you guys, if you've listened to previous episodes of the podcast, you'll know how much like Nancy is like my final girl.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Again.
Honestly, we should have a counter.
Ding! Game of Thrones and Nightmare on Elm Street. How many times could Charlie mention them in a podcast? But like, Nancy is like my final girl, and this character felt like Nancy. She was like, but in more of kind of like a horror geek. Like, she felt like a character that, had I been 15 and watching this film, she would have been who I would have completely identified and related to, because she felt exactly like what I was like as a teenager. Like, you look in her bedroom and it's like posters, Universal Monsters.
Yeah, she had an interesting few choices in there, I thought. But obviously it was limited as to what she could pick, because it was the 60s. We didn't have Nightmare on Elm Street and everything yet, not even Halloween. So we'll give her time. But she was on the right track.
I felt like if I was a teenager in the 60s, like,
that would be you.
That would be me. And that was really, really nice. And like you said, it was really nice to see like a female doing that, because if you think about Scream, the horror geek is a man. If you think about like every slasher type film, the people that know the rules of a slasher film, the people that know exactly what they're doing and are the horror geeks, are always the guys.
But it didn't feel forced either, which I think is a good thing, because I don't know, I know that there are people who are quite precious about things, Ghostbusters, but I think that it didn't feel like it was a problem that there was a girl who was on this journey, and she was kind of aware of the tropes of horror, and she had a respect for the genre and everything there. So I appreciated that, and I thought that was quite good. And the way that the kids were kind of thrown together almost, and they had this friendship, I do think you kind of cared about them. But I think particularly obviously when it starts getting going, and it is clearly obviously an anthology film, because these stories write themselves and they each involve a character from the group. I think the characters particularly that you lose right at the start, obviously the jock they established quite easily that he was a bit of a dickhead because that's what he was acting like, and I think that works because they needed to off someone first. But particularly like August, I don't think you really got to know much about him.
I felt like
the Spider Girl as well. I think they were trying to hint that she was just kind of this shallow person who was very much focused on looks and things, but it would have been nice to have got a little bit more character development.
August, Charlie, and was it Ruth?
Ruth was his sister, wasn't it? Yeah.
August, Charlie and Ruth, and they kind of, spoilers, they kind of get stuff that happens to them.
Yeah.
And like you said, like I was kind of a bit like, I think really
one of the
care.
problems though is the fact that I don't feel like I know any of their names. The only one that I know is August because I've watched the trailer about 8 times and I know that she's like, Augie, you're in the next story. So that's the only reason I know their names, which I guess is a problem. I mean, overall, I think it was a really, really good film. I'd have liked it to have been a bit scarier.
See, this is where I think it was interesting because we spoke about how it kind of appeals to like the kind of Goosebumps kind of and like it's a gateway horror, but it was a 15.
I don't think it needed to be a 15.
I think the way that it is at the moment, I think it should have been a 12.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it felt like a film that a 13-year-old would watch and be like, where has horror been all my life?
The thing that I could think
if it was going to be a 15,
it was the jangly man kind of scene. Or I feel like I'm saying that wrong, and I feel like I'm going to listen to this back and
hate yourself. I think it was interesting that it was a 15 because it didn't for me it didn't feel scary enough to be a 15. Like I've seen much scarier films that have been a 15.
Well, I've seen much scarier films that have been a 12A, like Woman in Black, for example.
Oh my god, that film,
terrifying in a lot of ways. And to me, I guess it obviously is just more jump scares than anything else in The Woman in Black, but it does have that tension. It has a backstory which is really horrific. I mean, there is a death of a child in there. Yeah. So I mean, they get away with quite a lot.
Well, the first like couple of minutes is kids jumping out of a window. 3 kids jumping out of a window.
A bad shit goes down in that film. But I didn't see why
I felt like
15.
it should have been a 12, and if they were going to make it a 15, I wanted it to be scarier.
Amp it up more, absolutely.
So it was interesting that it is one of those kind of trick or treat gateway type horror-y, goosebumpsy type films, but the age rating just felt wrong to me. I felt like it should have been a 12, and
like if you think about it,
should have been scary.
Trick or Treat is a 15 as well.
But Trick or Treat's a lot scarier.
Feels a lot more,
and it's a lot more violent in places.
Intense.
Like the stuff with the razor blades and the candy and all of that. Like Trick or Treat's a lot more.
Scary Tales, Scary Stories is on the same.
No.
Kind of, I keep saying Scary Tales because I feel like that
was a maze.
That was a maze at Universal, wasn't it?
Horror Nights 28.
Absolutely. But,
or was it 28 or was it 29?
No, it was 28. We've not had 29 yet. That's this year.
Oh, was it 28 or 27? We went to 28 and 27, didn't we?
It was 28. It was last year. Okay. Don't worry. Don't panic. But yeah, I overall really, really enjoyed it. I think it was absolutely wonderful to feel like it was Halloween in August.
Oh, yeah.
So, to me, that was a vibe.
Also, very much happy that in the UK, TK Maxx have started putting their Halloween shit out in August.
We might already have bought 2 fall centre candles already.
Yeah, so we've got a friend, Sarah Thomas. She does some super freak stuff. Hiya love, hiya duck, you're right.
Rusty Rachel.
Yeah, she's one of our best friends, and she posted something on her Instagram. She was like, TK Maxx are doing Halloween stuff, and we were like, and we tried to have a chilled Sunday, didn't we?
Yeah.
We were like, let's just have a chilled Sunday as a couple, and it'll be really nice. And then we ended up going to TK Maxx for like an hour and just...
I will say, I blame this entirely on a Facebook page that I follow. There is a Facebook page called Halloween Decor UK, and they basically post, like, it's quite a nice community, but they post, obviously, when things start appearing in stores, so I knew that there was, like, baking items that were appearing in TK Maxx, Home Sense, all of that, so we kind of had an idea that we might find 1 or 2 things, and we found the stand, and we stayed there for, like, 30 minutes, and we smelled every candle, and we spent far too much money on candles, ultimately, so... This podcast, the room smells lovely now, but that's just because we love Halloween and autumn so much. So we're heading into a nice period of the year, I think, now, which is good.
Which is good, definitely good.
So I guess we should probably think about wrapping things up. We've spoken about quite a lot, and obviously it's only been me and Charlie, so we understand it's been a little different this episode. Hopefully, obviously, programming will return to normal in the next kind of few months or so. But in terms of what I think we'll hope to maybe cover on the next one, we do know that It Chapter 2 is going to be coming out.
So excited!
There's plenty of great horror films still on the way for this year, so I think it's going to be good to kind of see what else we've got to look forward to as we're getting closer to Halloween.
Yes, maybe we'll have a slightly more clown-themed episode next.
Yeah. I think it'd be nice to maybe do a bit of a retrospective on kind of the It Chapter 1, obviously It Chapter 2 when we've seen it, but then also the TV movie with Tim Curry, because I know that is a favourite of everyone. I think that's one that everyone kind of saw growing up. But just before we do wrap up, I do know that I did put out the call, as we usually do on the Instagram story, with people's opinions on killer doll films. That's obviously been the focus on this one. We've spoken about Chucky, a bit about obviously the Child's Play series. We spoke about Toy Story for some reason. We spoke about the Annabelle films.
I have got one killer doll thing that I didn't put on the Instagram story because I'm on the podcast, so I don't need to.
Kind of didn't need to, yeah.
But one killer doll thing that really scared me, and I'd completely forgotten about it.
Yeah.
Ventriloquist dolls. Dead Silence. Oh my god!
Well,
that film.
You've done me now, because this is something that is on obviously the suggestions that people have said.
Oh god, that film.
Right, let me have a look what people have said here. I know that you obviously mentioned one that might not be. It's not really a killer doll film, but it involves a doll that is violent. If you want to talk about that. So
we actually, I'm gonna talk about Horror Nights again. So we actually got to experience the Poltergeist maze last year.
So good.
At Horror Nights 28, and it was insane. It's possibly the best horror maze I have ever been in. It was spectacular. Killer doll / horrendous doll in Poltergeist, the clown doll. Absolutely disgusting. Scared the bejesus out of me as a kid. I can't remember exactly how old I was when I did watch Poltergeist. I think I was probably about 16 when I saw it for the first time, so it was quite old. But terrified me. Hated it. Hated everything about it. Disgusting. Scariest bit of the film for me was that thing. Hated it.
I think the bit when it's kind of sat at the end of the bed as well, like everyone's kind of had something in their room that's been at the end of their bed that they've had to kind of throw an item of clothing over. So I 100% see that.
Yeah.
One thing that I think is very similar to that, which our good friend Theo Van Leeds commented on, is Joe Dante's The Hole. Now this was, I think, a more recent kind of film, and
I've not seen
if people
this.
know Joe Dante, obviously Piranha, Gremlins, that sort of thing. So he's a guy who knows his shit, and he made a film called The Hole. 3D. It was kind of when 3D was 3D. It was kind of when 3D was having its moment. Like Avatar had basically meant that everything had to be in 3D. But it was good to kind of see a horror film be made, and it's kind of a gateway sort of horror film. It deals with a lot of serious issues. There's kind of like domestic abuse and single parents and like that's it. It's all kind of in there, and I think it's a nice mix because they're the things that are maybe the really horrific things of the story, but they manifest themselves in certain ways. And it's ultimately about this group of kids who discover a hole in their basement. It's like a trapdoor. They open it,
Spoiler
and then they
alert,
don't know where it goes. Like they have no idea where it goes.
This sounds a bit like the Goonies in a weird way. Is it like a horror version of the Goonies?
But one of the kids has this kind of phobia of dolls or clowns kind of mixed together, and then this absolute abomination comes out of the hole, and all I can describe it as is it's very similar to the Poltergeist kind of doll, but it looks a little bit more like a jester, and it's absolutely horrendous, and forms some of the scariest moments of the film right there just with the way that it's being. So
I'm gonna have to
I think you're gonna have to check it out.
Go and watch, maybe even find just a YouTube clip of that.
Absolutely.
Or just a picture of it.
Absolutely. You mentioned obviously Dead Silence. One of our friends, Nicole, on Instagram also said Dead Silence. She said, even though it's about Mary Shaw, ventriloquist dolls are creepy, which I 100% am on board with. I do think again, maybe genuinely one of my favourite horror films that I do kind of watch quite a lot. I know that you have a bad time with it, but...
So I watched Dead Silence for the first time in a foreign country. This was back when video stores were still a thing. So I was on holiday in Bruges, and we decided to have a night at the flat that we were staying in, and we went to the video store and we got some films, and Dead Silence was one of them, because we were all like, let's watch a horror film, because that would be like the worst idea in a foreign country. And it didn't help that a couple of doors down from the flat we were staying in, there was this really like creepily hand painted every colour of the rainbow house that had boarded up windows, and this crazy woman lived there. Like, I remember walking home from a restaurant one night and she was screaming out of her window waving an axe, like 100% true. Like, oh my god, terrifying. So she was living 2 doors down from the flat we were staying in. We decided to watch Dead Silence. Worst mistake of my life. I did not sleep a wink that night. Like, that film did something to me. Like, I still can't watch it now. Like, I'll see pictures of like Mary Shaw on like horror forums on the internet. I'll be like, no, get it away, set it on fire.
You have a problem with like old women, but I guess the doll aspect of it, I think, was perfectly done.
Oh yeah,
and I think James Wan has an affinity with dolls. Obviously, Saw and Dead Silence, and there always seems to be some creepy kind of dolls. Obviously, Annabelle as well. So I think, I agree with that. I do think it is a film that's maybe underrated and not.
Oh yeah, it is so underrated.
To be kind of a doll film. Becky commented on the post that we popped on the Instagram story, and she said, probably going to get a bit of hate for this, but I didn't dislike the new Child's Play. She said that she liked the fact that his behaviour was learnt from Andy.
No. And
I mean, that was something I said that I obviously enjoyed about it as well, the fact that he kind of formed his murderous ways because he just looked at humans and was like, do you know what, you guys are the worst.
To be fair, I suppose thinking about it like that, it is like a reflection of how shit humans can be. But still, I'm not here for the Child's Play remake.
No, I didn't think you were, but obviously I think it was a divisive film, and I think that's ultimately kind of what it set out to be. The marketing was like crazy, and I don't know, there was a lot of good things about it and a lot of bad things about
I think it is one of those films, like you said, that is divisive. You're either going to love it or you hate it. I don't think anybody, none of the reviews or chat about it I've seen, anybody sits on the fence, but I think my first words to you as we left the cinema was, what was that? And it was like, that was literally like the Nightmare on Elm Street remake that we didn't ask for. It's exactly the same story.
I think one thing as well, just to kind of round stuff out and kind of cap stuff off then now, is what I am curious to see is that I know that there's a sequel to The Boy that's coming, and I know that that's obviously a film that centres around a doll. Whether the doll's the killer or not is something that I think you will find out if you watch the first film. But what I am curious to see is what they're going to do with that concept, because I think they very much exhausted quite a big reveal in the first film. So I'm curious to see obviously where they go, but I know the original people are back on board with it, like in terms of writers, directors. So I don't know, I'm quietly optimistic, but I personally don't mind films about dolls. I don't find them all that creepy, but I don't really find clowns all that creepy, but we shall see after It Chapter 2 next month.
But I remember going to see It with you, and you'd already seen it, and there were a few times when you were like,
stuff that just wasn't kind of expected, like the stuff where, like, there's things I think that you expect from those films, and then they kind of did things that I found honestly quite scary.
See, so, this is what I was saying about Child's Play, just to kind of draw a parallel with It and Child's Play, if you can.
Well, it's from one of the producers of It, so they had some people involved.
so different to the Tim Curry version. I think, like, the look of Pennywise is different. Like, I don't know, it just felt more kind of groundbreaking than like the Child's Play remake.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it felt like it was, right, the Tim Curry film was great, but let's shit up. Whereas the Child's Play one was going, the Brad Dourif Chucky was great.
But for the
Let's
people
do
who are
a little
fans
bit
of
of
that,
something.
they're going to get the TV series that's in development.
Yeah.
So I don't think, as a horror fan, I think it is win-win. At the end of the day, if a film is terrible, you don't need to watch it. You don't need to see Child's Play, the remake, any longer. You
I
don't
am
need
never
to see
going to watch it again.
Whereas if someone did enjoy it, they can rewatch it.
But it's like, it depends what your bag is, what you like, and what scares you as well.
The kills. The kills were really good, and I think they had some really nice gory moments in there. But again, I'm sure that was a 15 as well. So I don't get where these ratings are coming from. So
if anybody works for the BFCC, can you please
drop us a line, please?
How do you rate stuff, please?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But we've spoken for far too long.
We have.
And I hope you've enjoyed it. But we will be back next month with a Killer Clown episode. I think we should talk about that. Obviously, some of the other Killer Clown films that we enjoy. And we might even bring back, because I know in one of the previous episodes we did record some impressions of Pennywise. And we weren't able to put them in. So I'm really, really keen for everyone to hear how bad we did at that. But until
yours
the next
was quite good. Mine was awful.
I guess they were. I think they were all terrible. But thank you so much for listening, and as always, keep it creepy, and we'll see you on the other side. Ooh.
To need a drink.
Yeah, a little bit.
Refreshing. You can put that on the outtakes at the end.
Amazing. We have no idea what we're doing. Okay.